Okay, just picture this for a second. Your dream home, the place you poured your life savings into, is suddenly declared a death trap. Sounds like a total nightmare, right? Well, that's exactly what happened to hundreds of families in Gurgaon. But here's the twist. One homebuyer's nightmare ended with a massive 4 crore rupee payout. And the hero of the story? Well, it was a player nobody expected to see in a courtroom, artificial intelligence. Let's dive into how a simple AI search completely changed the game here.
And this wasn't some minor problem, a few cracks here and there. This was the devastating final word from the experts at IIT-Delhi. It's a statement that leaves zero room for debate. The buildings were a complete write-off. But how on earth did it ever get to this point?
So let's go back to the beginning, to the single event that started this whole catastrophic chain reaction.
It all started on February 10th, 2022. A piece of a 6th-floor apartment at the Chintels Paradiso complex just collapsed. It created this terrifying domino effect, taking down 5 floors below it and, tragically, killing 2 women. Of course, an immediate inquiry was launched, and IIT-Delhi was called in for a full structural audit. What they found was just shocking. The concrete was riddled with chlorides, and the construction quality was so poor that all 9 towers were deemed unsafe. The dream was officially over.
With hundreds of people now homeless, a whole new battle began. This time, it wasn't about safety, it was about money. And it raised a really tough question. How do you fairly pay someone for a home that technically doesn't even exist anymore?
So everything stalled, and it all came down to a simple but huge disagreement over money. On one side, you had the developer, Chintels, saying, "We'll pay you based on this old committee rate of about 7,500 rupees per square foot." But on the other side, the homebuyer, Aruna Garg, was saying, "No way, that's totally out of date. The market's shot up since then, and that money won't get me anything close to what I lost."
Now, to make things even more complicated, there was already a Supreme Court ruling for a different group of residents from the same project. They were given 2 choices: either take a payout at those old, lower rates or have the builder rebuild everything. But here's the catch. In Ms. Garg's case, the developer just flat out refused to rebuild. So she was stuck, facing this lowball offer with seemingly no other option. It really felt like a dead end.
And this, right here, is where the story takes a really fascinating modern turn. Faced with this complete stalemate, the adjudicating officer at the Haryana Real Estate Regulatory Authority, that's HRA, did something you just don't see every day.
I mean, this was the central problem, right? The developer was clinging to this old, low valuation. The homebuyer had to somehow prove what her property would be worth today. How could she do that? The entire building was condemned.
The officer turned to Google's AI. He actually used its AI overview feature. The thing that pulls together and summarizes information from all over the web. He used it to get an impartial, data-driven look at the property market in that exact area, tracking it from the day of the collapse right up to the present. He basically skipped the old committee reports and used modern tech to find the current market reality.
So what did the AI actually find? Well, it all boiled down to this one number, 64.7%. That's how much property values in that area had skyrocketed in just a couple of years. I mean, wow. That single piece of data just blew the developer's offer out of the water and proved the massive gap between their number and the actual current market value. The AI delivered the hard evidence they needed to break the deadlock.
So now, armed with this powerful data, the adjudicating officer was ready to make a final decision, one that would end up making headlines. He didn't just adjust the developer's rate, he threw it out completely. Based on the market appreciation that the AI had uncovered, he set a brand new compensation value, 13,000 rupees per square foot. That's almost double what was on the table before. It was a massive win for the homebuyer.
Let's actually break that down. The apartment itself was valued at nearly 4.1 crore, but the court didn't stop there. It also awarded a refund for the stamp duty, covered her legal costs, and, importantly, added 2 lakh rupees for mental agony and harassment, which really acknowledges the human cost of this whole ordeal. All in, the total came to about 4.16 crore rupees, a truly life-altering result.
Okay, so this is an incredible story for one person. But what does it mean for the rest of us? What are the big takeaways for other homebuyers? Because this ruling has some really important implications.
Now here's a crucial little twist. In a different case, involving the exact same failed project, a complaint filed by another resident, Shahnaz Hussain, was actually dismissed. Think about that. Same developer, same shoddy construction, but a completely different result. Why?
The difference was all about legal strategy, about jurisdiction. See, Ms. Hussein had already been part of that earlier Supreme Court case. And in law, you generally can't try the same case twice, so HRERA's hands were tied. But Ms. Garg, she wasn't part of that earlier group. That meant her case was brand new, a clean slate. And that clean slate opened the door for this fresh AI-powered ruling. It's a perfect example of how the legal path you choose can literally make or break your case.
At the very heart of all this is a legal idea called quantum of damage. The goal here isn't about punishing the company that did wrong. It's about making the victim whole again. It's about restoring them to the same financial spot they were in before the disaster happened, which is precisely what that AI-informed ruling managed to do. So, what are the lessons here for you? First, document absolutely everything. Pictures, reports, emails, you name it. Second, you have to clearly prove your financial loss using independent experts if you can. And third, you have to know your legal options. As we just saw, picking the right place to fight your battle, like HRERA in Ms. Garg's case, can change everything.
This whole case leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. We just saw an AI tool provide objective, data-backed evidence that completely turned a multi-crore lawsuit on its head. Could this be the start of something bigger? Could AI become a standard tool in our justice system, used to guarantee fairness and find objective truth? It is definitely something to think about.